Have you ever wondered why people eat so differently across the world? Because I know I have. That's why in this video, we're gonna explore global diets through the lens of culture, religion, and science. Let's first start where food is the way of life. On the shores of the Mediterranean, where balance, simplicity, and tradition shape each dish. You've more than likely heard of the Mediterranean diet. This originates from Greece, southern France, Italy, and it consists of olive oil, fish, legumes, vegetables, and red wine in moderation. It's also linked to predominantly Christian religions. Wine consumption reflects the cultural religious kind of integration. Mediterranean diet kind of blew up overnight and it became like a wellness trend. I think it was linked to, there was a film, you may have seen it, about the blue zones. I think that's when it kind of gained popularity again, and at least in the media. And then some people started to try the Mediterranean diet. There's obviously research uncovering why it might be helpful for some. There's definitely links to reduced cardiovascular disease and also longevity. So that's why there was that really interesting film on the blue zones and why these people live for like hundreds of years, like they become centenarians, and they studied, like they looked at the diets and that kind of stuff. That's not to say that those correlations equal causation. We say that all the time on my channel, but it's just really interesting to see like how do these diets differ across the world and relate to maybe aging, longevity, and some of the diseases that we see. Now, from the Mediterranean, let's head east, where balance, simplicity, and tradition shape each dish. The East Asian diet. So this originates from Japan, China, and Korea. This consists of rice, fish, soy. Confucianism. That's just the importance of like moral character. So having like ethical conduct, social behaviors. The scientific research associated with this diet is kind of consisting of like a high sodium or high soy intake is linked to reduced breast cancer. And these fermented foods, they're known to support our gut health and gut microbiome. There is not extensive research on this. Obviously, this is a kind of big blowing up area of research right now. She's poppin'. And then obviously soy isn't suitable for everyone. So that's another note to take into consideration. But it's interesting to see what research is being uncovered. Now let's travel south, where spices tell stories and centuries of spiritual practice have shaped what's on the plate. The South Asian vegetarian diet is one that I was unfamiliar with. It originates from India, Nepal, and Sri Lanka. So I'm very unfamiliar with this diet. I want to make that clear. If I am actually any of these diets incorrectly stating anything, or if you want to add anything, feel free to do so in the comments, and I just ask you do it in a respectful manner, obviously. This diet consists of lentils, rice, and vegetables, obviously, maybe some dairy as well. The religious roots connected to this kind of diet are like Hinduism, Jainism, leading to like the widespread vegetarianism. So that's, you know, the non-violent factor of like killing animals and stuff. So if somebody's a vegetarian, it's really important that we are respectful of it in case that it's connected to their religion and their culture. Some scientific research behind this diet points to lower risks of heart disease and also lower risks of some cancers. So if you're interested in looking into any of this, I'm going to include more information in the description box below. Across many parts of the world, faith is the foundation of food, especially in Islamic cultures where each food is rooted deeply with principles. It's obviously originating from the Middle East, North Africa, and some parts of Asia. This is going to contain no pork or alcohol. All meat must be halal, which means it's ritually slaughtered. The religious basis is based off of the Quranic dietary laws, and that's what shapes their food choices. And some scientific research going into these diets or behind these diets really emphasizes the cleanliness and moderation. So Fasting during Ramadan is shown to improve metabolic markers, which is really interesting. There's a lot of research going into fasting and the effects, but again, just like the last diet, there's obviously people it's good for and people it can be harmful for. Next, we journey to Latin America, where vibrant traditions and indigenous flavors come to play together in a colorful dish. The Latin American traditional diet. This originates from Mexico, Peru, and Brazil. This contains corns, beans, squash, chilies, and tropical fruits. If you read any old writings about these diets, it really highlights beans, corn, and squash and these legumes and stuff. There's actually really interesting stories I read when I was reading on strawberries about a specific strawberry drink in a Native American tribe. I'm forgetting which specific tribe. Kind of put these specific food groups on a pedestal, and they really associate their upbringing with those foods. Now, I'm not going to cover that in this video. I'm not very well versed on all of that. I just read about it very recently, but I thought it was really interesting. So the cultural and religious influences with this group would be the blend of indigenous traditions and Catholic feasts or fasts. Scientific insights to think about are they're high in fiber, antioxidants, and traditional diets are associated with a lower diabetic risk. So that's something to consider. Obviously, all of these diets have their pros and cons. Again, I just want to make sure that we are remembering that. And this is not a video to encourage any diet. It is only to educate on different diets. Now to the modern West, where convenience often drives the flavors of our food. Fast-paced living has really reshaped how we eat. So this is USA and some parts of Europe, and it consists of processed foods, red meat, lots of high sugar and fat. We have a high prevalence in obesity, diabetes, heart disease, and our ultra-processed foods are definitely linked to poor health outcomes. It is it's definitely a rising concern about these processed foods and what they're doing to our bodies, and the FDA is currently slowly getting better at assessing these issues. Our journey ends with a look at how different cultures around the world embrace periods of restraint. For faith, health, or both. Let's talk fasting and intermittent dieting across cultures. Apparently I can't say that. Religious origins of fasting is Ramadan, Islam, Lent, Christianity, Yom Kippur, Judaism, and then Buddhist fasting. And the modern trend is intermittent fasting, which is every once in a while, so it's not a specific time period that you're doing it. It's just maybe you decide to do it randomly, or there's different ways to think about it. I'm not going to specify that. The scientific research going into and showing up with these practices of fasting, it's shown to improve our insulin sensitivity and to reduce inflammation. There's associations with detoxing, and there's obviously traditional practices to consider and respect that might have already been kind of doing these practices that science is going to unveil, obviously. But that's just a little note that I wanted to include on these fasting practices. I do want to do another video more in depth on fasting because I can't cover everything in this video, but I really want to come at my angle of Christianity and talk about it and how I think of it. Thank you for joining me on this journey to celebrate dietary diversity and the role of tradition, religion, and science in our food. There's definitely the common theme of plant-based, whole foods, and moderation throughout all of these cultural diets and these codes, rules that they follow. So there's no one perfect diet, and there's only one that's right for you and your culture. So be sure to respect yourself and your culture, your dietary needs. Also check out my other little short video where we tried some different snacks from other cultures. So whether it's through ancient traditions or modern day practices, the way we eat shapes more than your body. It shapes who we are. Which diet stood out the most to you? And I know I couldn't cover all of them, so if you have any other thoughts or conclusions that you'd like to share in the comments, I totally invite you to do so. And don't forget to subscribe to join our little community and come back next week to see what I have on the horizon. Thank you so much for supporting our little small business, and don't forget that you are loved. Peace.